Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you are here. So before I start this video, I want to really appreciate all those who commented on my last post that was on fruit sprinkled cake that I made, but I didn't show the full recipe because it was a short. So I would love to appreciate all those who subscribed and all those who commented on that. I really appreciate that. So I'm making this video on a fruit cake sprinkle recipe that I made, and somebody requested for the full recipe. So I decided to make a video to show step-by-step methods on what I did. So I'm very glad to do this, and I hope anyone watching this would gain something from what I'm about to do now. So there are different ways you can actually make fruit cake recipe. Yeah, there are different ways, but this is my own technique, not different from what others are doing. But yeah, I'm glad to show how I did mine, because I've tried on several locations and I failed, but I got that particular one. So first of all, I have a pan here. So this is a non-sticky pan. So I'm going to be greasing it with some margarine. Some people may decide to have there's a lining that you can put in the pan if you don't want to, grease, or because it's a non-sticky pan, you might even actually not even grease. But I would love to grease my pan so that when it comes out good. So I first of all grease the pan and then leave it aside. Just little butter. I don't put much, just little, because this is a non-sticky pan. So you can use any pan of your choice. So just go ahead. First of all, you want to wash your hands and then dry them, so that you don't introduce dirt into your food. So I just grease it. And while you're greasing this, in the process of starting the mixing all of your ingredients, you might want to preheat your oven. So it's usually good to preheat the oven so that the oven will be ready. So once you're done with the mixing and your ingredients are properly mixed and they're in the pan, it will be ready to bake because your oven is already preheated. So I just grease it just slightly, not so much, because you don't want so much butter in there. So this is it. So I'm going to keep this aside and then start mixing. So in here I have the butter and then the margarine. I'm going to give you the measurement for each, but you can decide on your own measurement. So I'm going to be mixing this with a hand mixer here. It makes the work easy. With the hand mixer is quite easy. So we'll start it. So here we are. So you have to cream the butter or the margarine and then the sugar until it doubles in size, and then it becomes, when you hold it on a spoon and you drop it, should come out without any hindrance. So I'm going to cream this a little bit more. So here I have my cream and sugar, so it is ready now. So when doing this, when baking, it's actually very good to mix the dry ingredients separately and then the wet ingredients separately. So I'm going to get the eggs and every other wet ingredient that I need to add to this. I'll set this aside now. So before going ahead, here I have my raisins. So this is what I will use as per the fruit. So some people would love to just add this to the to the floor and then mix it together, but I prefer to soak it in water. Some people might prefer to soak in brandy, that's alcohol, but I prefer to soak mine in water. So before I continue with the rest of the process, I will soak this in water. So here I will start with the eggs. So I want to break in the eggs here into a bowl first. So I have my eggs here, and then so you want to introduce it just bit by bit and then mix just bit. So you introduce the eggs into the cream, the margarine and sugar bit by bit. Yeah, so here I've added my eggs. So the next thing I want to add my other wet ingredients. So here I have a milk. I love to add milk to this cake, because it's going to bring out all the good flavors and taste you want. It's optional, you might not want to add that. So for fruit cake recipes, most people prefer to use brownie, but I didn't use brownie in this recipe, so I used cocoa powder here. I used cocoa powder, so getting a good quality cocoa powder is actually good. So this is the cocoa powder I used. So what I did for my own recipe was to mix a little bit of the cocoa powder into the warmed milk. I warmed my milk a little bit, So I just warmed the milk a little bit so that the cocoa powder can get mixed properly into it. So I'm going to be adding a bit of the cocoa powder in there. I'll give a description of the quantity I added. So for this, I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons here. I'm still going to add some of the cocoa powder in the dry ingredients, but I just want to add it here. So here, and mix it all. So you don't want to use so much, you don't want to introduce so much liquid into your cake. So you just have to be discreet about it. So this is what I have here. So I'm just going to introduce it bit by bit. When I introduce, I will cream. So I will cream this. I'll add more. I'll cream. So that's it. So the next thing I want to do, so I have something here called molasses. So some people might want to use a black treacle. There's something called black treacle, but I use molasses in this recipe. It's also good for baking. So just a teaspoon of this I'm going to be adding here. And just a teaspoon. Yeah, that's fine. So I'll add. So for each ingredient you add, you want to cream. So the next ingredient I have here, my golden syrup. This is my golden syrup. Just a teaspoon and then half. for my golden syrup and cream. Then I have my fruit, that is the raisins that I soaked in water. So I've sieved out all the water and then it's now dry. So I would love to introduce it into my wet ingredients so that I can mix it, so you'll be able to mix very well. And then you do this to prevent sedimentation of the fruit, of the raisins down the pan. So this is gonna actually mix very well with your cake. So I'll add it here and then mix. So next I have my lemon, so I'm going to extract a little quantity of the juice here and add it inside the cake. So it's time to mix my dry ingredients. So here I have the flour here. So next thing I'm going to be using nutmeg. Yeah, use nutmeg in this fruitcake recipe. So I would love to use just half a teaspoon of this because I have other flavors. Put it in there. Then I'm going to be adding cinnamon too. Cinnamon. All of this gives it a very good taste, as in, it brings out the flavor of the cake. You'll be wondering what am I actually tasting out. You can't even put a finger on what taste you're having. So I'm going to be putting just half a teaspoon of this. I don't want it to be too much. Depending on the size of cake you're actually making, yeah, it depends. So in this recipe, not much is needed. So the next thing I'll be adding is baking powder. I'm going to give the full description of the quantities that I use in this recipe in my description page. So this is my baking powder. This is 1 teaspoon. This is another teaspoon. So drop this aside and then I'll mix. Remember I said earlier that I'll also be mixing some cocoa powder in the in the dry ingredient. So I'm going to be introducing just just 1 teaspoon of this cocoa powder because I already have some in the liquid part. Then I'll mix this very well. It's actually good to mix well. This is what it looks like. Mix it well so I can get a good product out of it. So mix it well. Mix it. So mix. So here, after you have mixed it, they will now introduce it bit by bit into our wet ingredient. So we just bit by bit, then we cream. You want to use a low heat. You want to use a low speed. So that you don't mess up the whole thing, because this hand mixer is very funny. So you have to, gradually you can increase the speed where you're getting a good consistency. But in the initial stage when you want to mix, just start slow. So ready now. So we're going to transfer this into the greased pan. Meanwhile, remember that you have to preheat the oven, first, so that you can get a very good result. So we're going to put this into the greased pan. So here, just have anything you want, you can actually put on your cake, whatever makes you happy. That is what you can put. It's not compulsory that you must be sprinkle or this or that. Whatever you feel that gives you joy, that is what you're gonna do. Hello everyone. So our fruit sprinkled cake is ready. This looks so good. Yeah, it is ready. So this is it. Yeah, I'm so happy. So yeah, so this is it. It looks so good, and I'm sure it's gonna taste so yummy. Yeah, so this is it here. So I would love you guys to replicate this recipe and tell me how good and delicious you found it. Yeah, so I want to once again thank all those who commented on my last recipe, those who have subscribed to my channel, and those who have not subscribed to. I also want to thank you guys, and I'm asking you to please subscribe and also share the recipe. Yeah, if you find what I do on this channel interesting. Actually, my channel is all about touring places, testing out food, having reviews on different foods that you can come across. So yeah, so that is basically what I do. Also trying out different new recipes that I might bump into. Yeah, so I'm glad to reply back this request from one of someone who actually requested for this. I'm glad to respond to that request. So this is how I made it. I'm going to be putting down the full the recipe ingredients in my description page on my YouTube channel. So I would also love to use this medium to wish everyone a happy Easter celebration, and stay well and healthy. Thank you guys for watching, sharing and subscribing, and also please, your comments are also very welcome. Thank you so much.